gym. You're in the gym. You're in the gym.
Right, welcome back to my podcast, Stephen Sulley Study. I've got a future world champion in front of me, Michael Conlan. Thank you very much for your time, and it's going to be a great episode, mate.
Yes, mate, I'm looking forward to it. I've been watching for a while now, and I'm a big fan. Obviously, seeing you on the hills every Saturday morning, and then finding that you do this. And I've watched Stan's, I've watched Harlem's, I watched the girl who does the ace baths and stuff.
Yeah, is it, what was her name? The Burmese Python?
Yeah, I actually bought one of her ace baths.
All right.
From your show, so... yeah, I'm a fan.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I've got to say, though, I've got to confess, the Saturdays I haven't been doing recently due to my baby boy, but I'm going to be back on it.
I'm the same. I haven't been there because I tore my hamstring in my last fight, so I should be back this Saturday.
Good man. Right, me too then. So, I've got the pleasure of actually training down your same gym, boxing booth. I don't obviously see you too much down there because I'm first person down there, and I'm out there within the hour, and I know you professionals are there during the day. But Charlie B is a really good friend of mine. I knew Charlie when he had Like to Lift and Like to Fight back in the day, and then he obviously moved over with Adam Booth, and I get to pick his brain all the time. I mean, if you ask him, I'm always asking about you guys because I get a lot of inspiration, and I'm very, very intrigued, like with your mindset, your routine, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's fascinating. Am I right in saying you are the most decorated Irish amateur? Yeah,
correct. Actually, 5 years ago to the day, I won the World Championships, the only Irishman ever. So
Charlie said to me, and I'm going to, please understand this, when I can and when we're allowed over there, I'm definitely going to come to Madison Square Garden and witness what Charlie keeps on telling me. He says that when he went over there with you and you walked out, he said you cannot believe the response and the reaction that the crowd has when they see you walk down. What's that like? Like, as a young man, 29 years of age, okay, what is that like walking out to, it's not even your home, but it's a home from home almost. Yeah. What's that like when you walk out?
Listen, it's a special feeling. I always mess up with Charlie, tell him I'm the king of New York, and I think when he went and seen what it was like, he was like, you actually are. But no, it's special. Listen, I think it's, in my opinion, it's being Irish. Irish people are in every pocket of the world. No matter where you go, you'll find an Irish bar, or you'll meet Irish people. So one thing is we're all very patriotic, and we all really do support each other. And I think that's one of the main things. You see loads of the expats, and a lot of so much people travel over and stuff, and maybe because what I done the amateurs, but also my own talents, and then adding being Irish to it, helps. Yeah.
I feel like the age of like someone like a Conor McGregor, it seems like everyone sort of claims they're a little bit Irish these days. I'm actually quarter Irish, I believe it or not. My granddad was from County Mayo, and I went there a few years ago because I had never ever been there. I've been to Dublin, obviously on a stag do, but
to the west.
Never done proper islands, certain different pockets, like Cork and places like that. Yeah. Beautiful, really, really lovely.
In my opinion, it's the best place in the world. Obviously I'm biased, I'm Irish, but for everything, for safety, for family, for community, it's a real special place, Ireland.
I think the Irish are known in my mind for two things: is heart, and it is that sort of togetherness. They support each other, and I think again through fighters, yourself and many others, you can see that. Why do you think that is? How come the Irish has got so much heart and so much family-like bond?
You know what? I know the reason we have so much heart is because we're a nation which has been fighting for independence, for everything, for hundreds of years, and we're just we're the maybe have that small man syndrome, small country syndrome, where we actually are big, we are strong, and we like to show it and prove it all the time. So we're just a fighting kind of people, and that's where the heart kind of comes from. And togetherness. Yeah, it's just maybe the way it is. I'm unsure. There's not many other countries in the world which are like Ireland when it comes to that. You see, even in the football, even when we're doing bad or we're losing, they're still singing, they're still cheering.
Yeah.
They're all just very, very supportive.
Yeah. So on this podcast, I want to talk about obviously boxing and some of your fights and your career so far.
Yep.
I do want to talk about when you walked out with Conor McGregor, because that for me was amazing. I think boxing is not just about the boxing; it is about everything else that comes with it.
Show before the show.
The show, the energy, the excitement, and the razzle and dazzle and stuff, and then stuff outside of boxing, because I know you're a big advocate of like mental health. I think in Ireland I read there was quite a lot of suicides. There was an epidemic over there, and you've been quite outspoken about that. And also about your childhood. So let's start from the top then. So I know your dad was a boxer, John.
Yeah.
Your brother Jamie. I think he got to like European level. Is that right?
Yeah, he fought for a world title. He was WBO European champion. Retired, 19 wins, 1 loss. He lost that. When he lost for the world title, he just says, "That's me, I'm done." And now he's took control of my career, and he manages my career. And we've actually went out and started our own kind of management and promotional setup in Conlan boxing now. So it's a new venture for us and something we're really excited about.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So the fighting spirit's always been in you.
Always in the family, yeah.
Because so by your dad and your brother, who else boxes?
Yeah, so I have, there's 4 of us in terms of the boys. There's no girls in my family. 4 brothers. We all boxed. Only me and my brother Jamie, who's the oldest. We're the ones that stuck to it. My father was our coach, and yeah, that was it. Down the lane of family and stuff, not many people boxed in our family, but my father was always a big fan of boxing. Obviously competed a bit when he was younger. Never really to any high level or high standard, but just loved boxing. And from a young age, we were always watching boxing, staying up to watch the boxing. And it was just something that was in the household. The Olympic Games was on every year. My father was a sports fanatic. And the Olympic Games, every time they were on, every 4 years, we were watching. And one of my first memories of boxing was, I think it was either the 2000 Olympics or the 2004 Olympics.
I'm just going to push that a little bit closer, just in case it's not.
No worries. So yeah, it was one of them, and I remember saying to my father, "And I'll go be at the Olympics one day," and I'd done it twice. So it was always just something that was in the family.
So is it fair to say that you found your calling quite early on?
Yeah, definitely. I started boxing when I was 7. My 2 older brothers who started before me, they were kind of put into boxing more so to learn how to defend themselves, where I just wanted to be like them. So I followed them to the gym, and since then, it was me. I done it out of enjoyment rather than being pushed into it. I think that's when my Brendan, the second oldest, that's why I think he stopped. He didn't enjoy it as much as what me and Jamie would have. And my youngest brother, he had 1 fight. He lost, he retired. He came back when he was 16. He had 1 fight, he lost, and he retired. So he says, that's not for me. So, it's something that I knew from a young age I was going to be a fighter. I knew I was going to be a boxer. And I always loved the game of hitting and not getting hit. And just taunting my opponents. From a young age, I was the kind of... I was a little... Can you curse? I was a little bastard in the ring. Like I was sitting laughing and sticking my tongue out at people. And when you're a kid, people's emotions are high. So kids were crying and stuff. And I was always the smallest too. I was always really small for my age. So I was always sparring the bigger kids, and I was just tormenting them. And I just love that kind of mental game of boxing.
Yeah,
and it was amazing.
When I asked Harlem, actually, I think it was. It's almost coming up to a year since I interviewed him. And I said, what's it like to spar someone like Mick or someone like Josh Kelly or whoever? And he said, I remember what he said about you. He said, Mick is very, very intelligent in the ring. He said, if you've got an asset, say like you're strong or you're bigger, he would use that against you. Yeah. So what would you say defines you as a great boxer or fighter? Is it the IQ? Is it your fitness?
I think it's my ability to be adaptable and change at any moment of time. So most I can fight in any stance. I can fight going forward. I can fight going back, and I kind of figure out. I never really go into a fight with a game plan. I always just there is like a sort of game plan before going in, but I know within 10 seconds what I'm going to do, or about 20 seconds it'll take me just to kind of look, see how it's moving, see how things are going, and I'll change it right from there. And I think you can see in my last few fights where I came out as an orthodox, and within 20 seconds I knew that I'd have to fight my last fight as a southpaw. So I changed that right away, and I think that's my best strength and best asset, that I'm very, very adaptable to whatever is going on in the ring.
Yeah, because I was actually going to raise this because, interestingly enough, when you go onto a boxer's profile, Wikipedia page or something like that, it would always say your stance.
Yeah.
And every single place I've looked, it's orthodox and southpaw.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to you pick out any fighter and you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to have one or the other. I know what I am. I'm orthodox. Most fighters are.
Yeah.
But that's quite interesting because most boxers, they all can do it to a certain level.
Yeah.
But when they're in another stance, let's say they're typically orthodox and they're going to southpaw, you can clearly see they're not really meant to be in that southpaw stance. But you just seem like you can do both quite easily.
Yeah, it was something. How that came around, I think I was like, it would have been about 14 or 15. It would have been my second kind of All Ireland championship, and this kid who was just naturally bigger, even though we were the same, he was naturally bigger and stronger. And the first round he ran out and he had me stuck in the corner, and I couldn't get in. He was just punching. By the time we got out, the round had ended because it was only 2-minute rounds at the time. And the next round I came out and he came at me at the corner, and I turned into southpaw by accident and landed a right hook, and he just fell through the ropes. So the rest of that fight, every time he came at me, I stayed southpaw and just hooked him. I ended up winning the fight. So from then, I was like 14, obviously. But I think I was doing it younger, but not knowing I was doing it. But that's when I kind of had the mindset that I knew I could do it without any problems. And when in trouble, it would get me out of trouble. So that's when I started to do it. And then since then, it's just become part of my game.
Yeah.
The kind of most significant time I done it was the 2012 Olympics. The medal fight for to get into the semi-finals. So I fought a guy called Nordino Bali, who was very highly rated. I had my first world championship was 2011, and I ended up beating him in that there. He was ranked number 2 in the world. So I changed southpaw in that fight, but in the Olympic Games, in the quarterfinal Olympic Games, I ended up doing it again, facing him again for the medal.
Yeah.
And the exact same thing, turned southpaw, and just fought him in his own game, and that was, I think, when people noticed it an awful lot when I done it then, because it was live on TV and it was the stance which I wasn't meant to be in, as they say.
Yeah.
I was just able to do it naturally.
Because what I rate about it as well, going back to like how natural you make it, it's quite a risky thing to do. This is from my perspective, yeah. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. This is just my take on it.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a big boxing fan. I watch it, and I've obviously fought myself. I've had 15 fights myself, and occasionally I've had a moment where I switch, and I think I'm vulnerable here.
Yeah.
It's when Mayweather fought Conor McGregor. He actually said that in the build-up, when Conor was putting up a lot of videos of himself training, he said if he keeps on switching stance, he's going to lose energy.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a lot of truth in that, because if you don't do it right, or you do it for the showmanship rather than actually a strategy, you can actually start losing a bit of energy.
Yeah,
and
so
you might confuse yourself.
A lot of people do it because they have no other options, or they're tired and they're trying to save a bit of time, so they'll give a different look to kind of go, oh, well, I'm doing something different, and try to make you think about something. But it does take a lot of energy if you don't know what you're doing. But sometimes when you know what you're doing, it saves a lot of energy, because it does give you that extra bit of time. It does give you a different kind of look where your opponent has to readjust what they're doing. So I agree with what Floyd's saying. For people who don't understand boxing, and they're just doing it not like without knowing.
Yeah,
so, when you know what you're doing, it's not too bad.
And on the final note of this, I'm quite blessed that I've got someone like Charlie, because where he's working with Adam and where he's working with you guys, whatever you guys do, it sort of filters down to us later on.
Yeah.
And there's this one bit where you're doing the pads orthodox, and as he comes forward, you sort of pivot back, and now you're in your southpaw stance and you hit the pads. I've definitely not perfected it, but I can see the logic behind it. But
it creates the gap, gives you bigger room, also sets you in a different look of for your opponent. So it's very, very good if you can get it on board, because if you think about it, if you step back, you're only stepping back so much, but if you switch stance when you step back, it's a bigger step without using as much energy as well. So it's when you get that down, you'll notice.
So you said you started boxing at 7, right? I started boxing at 14, and the biggest regret I've got is I didn't start earlier. It's not because I didn't want to, it's because my mum wouldn't let me. My mum and dad were divorced quite at an early age, and I was with my mum most of the time. And her perception, and I think most people's perceptions, is that boxing's violent and you're going to get hurt and even maybe killed, and you're going to get brain damage, etc. Now, don't get me wrong. Violence is a part of it, but it can be controlled and it can be professional. And if you're doing it right with the right team and right people looking after you, it could be a really, really good thing to do. I'm pushing to get my son to start doing it. He's only 3 years of age, and obviously my second one is 6 weeks old now. I want them to get into boxing, not necessarily because I want them to become world champion. If they do, great, and I'll be supporting them, but it's the mindset. I think the mindset and the confidence it gives young people, female and male, is second to none. Would you say that having sport as part of boxing a part of schools would really help with some of the younger people's kind of confidence?
So I like this question. It's a very good question, because for me, being a boxer and doing it my life, doing it at the highest level, reaching the highest heights, which I have done. If you ask me, will you put your son in boxing? I'll tell you no. I'll not put my son in boxing, because I know the struggles it's put me through to get to where I've got to, and it's been tough. Do I want my son to have to do that? No, because I have done it. First up, boxing is a working class sport. It's a way for working class people to kind of get out, in my opinion. Well, in Belfast, that's what it always seemed. And it was good that I was good at it, because it's got me to where I got to. But I've done everything, and I've struggled to where I've got to, and now I'm here. I don't want my son to have to do that. There's much easier ways to earn a living, so to say, than boxing. But on the flip side, for discipline, for attitude, for training, for fitness, for health, for mental health, everything, boxing is unbelievable. It's a sport that can change lives. And if you are from them kind of areas, it's a sport that can save your life proper. And, I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for boxing. I'm very, very blessed to be where I'm at, and very grateful. But I wouldn't want my son to be competing at the highest level, but I definitely would want them to take part in training, in even competing to some sort of level. But not
at least doing sparring.
Not with the goal. Not with the goal. The goal, listen, this is I want to be my career. And if it happens, it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. Once you get that boxing bug, yourself, you have it. It's hard to ever lose that. So, because I've done it so long, I wouldn't want my son to have to do what I've done to get to where I got to. But at the same time, I do want him to kind of be involved in sport in some form. If it's boxing, it's boxing. If it's a different sport, it's a different sport. But I always wanted to kind of do boxing, because the self-discipline, the respect, everything you gain from the sport is unbelievable.
Yeah. I've got to say, with boxing, without boxing, I don't think I would have got into business for myself. I feel like if you can go into a boxing gym, it's quite intimidating for the first time.
Character building is unbelievable.
Character building. Then when you start doing sparring, I feel like if you can weather that and without getting too emotional, getting angry, shouting and screaming, and you can just deal with it and embrace it and then come back methodically with a plan, you can also do that in business, because metaphorically, life is like a sparring match or like a fight. Sometimes you're on the attack, business is going well, flourishing, the sun is out, you feel great on top of the world, and then coronavirus hits, pandemic hits, a recession hits, people lose their jobs, and I feel like that boxing gives you the calmness. You know, even when things are not going so right and you're against the ropes, you can come back. Yeah. And I just think that that's sometimes what I think the younger generation, you know, the real young who are coming up, they're missing. There's a thing called like the snowflake kind of culture at the moment. Yeah. And everybody
wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants to make money the easiest way they can, where sometimes it's just down to working hard. You
got to grit it down. You got to bite down your gum shield. Yeah. Whether that is like you're actually doing that in a fight, or things are not going so well. You got to push on, man.
Yeah.
The wellness company I'm part of has got a few questions. As I mentioned, I'm going to ask you at the end of the podcast, and there's loads of stuff. They highlighted one thing to me, and it's a bit of a hard question, but I want to ask it. If I was going to ask you this outside of this environment, it would be a bit intrusive. But where I'm a podcaster, I feel I'm going to throw it at you. So they said that before you got into boxing, or maybe at the start, was there drugs, was there stuff like that? I was actually quite surprised to hear that, because when I see you boot up Box Hill and you're absolutely obliterating it, and obviously see you on TV and see when you go to the Mecca of boxing, which is in New York, it's them two worlds seem far apart, and I almost couldn't believe it. So could you share some of that stuff?
Yeah, well, it was actually during boxing when I was a kid. I was a very good liar, and I could hide things really, really well. So I won my first national title my first year in boxing, so I was 11. My first year in competing in boxing, so you're 11 at that age when you're able to compete, where you get a winner or a loser.
Yeah.
And after that, I started to fall into my mates, my friends and stuff. They all were taking smoking weed, and then taking E's, and then next thing cocaine and drinking and stuff, and it was just it was normal. My mate's brother was a drug dealer, so he was getting all this stuff for us, and it was crazy. And from a young age, I started to kind of dabble in that stuff and kind of go deep into it. But boxing was always there. I was always doing boxing throughout this. Sometimes my father was my coach, and I was going to the gym, and I would have been drinking, but I was able to hide it. I was a good liar, so it was nobody really knew. I was always afraid of my brothers ever finding it, because I know they would have killed me, because they always raved about me. They were always saying, he's unbelievable, he's the best out of all of us. Now it's here from a young age, that kind of confidence building. But in my own other life, I was doing things which I shouldn't have been doing. I was I was taking E's near every single night. I was taking E's and going into bed and sharing a room with two other brothers, and I was thinking I was dreaming. I was talking. They were going, "What are you saying?" I said, "No." It was mental. It was crazy. I was living a double life, and throughout those years, I was still doing really well in the fighting. Now I won the national title in my first year. The second year I got to the final, but I won everything else. I lost in the final. Third year was the same. Fourth year I think was the kind of same, and then I started to kind of screw my head on a bit, because I had to go to the Commonwealth Youth Games, and I was told, "Listen, you're going to get drug tested when you're out of this." And I was like, fuck, if my dad ever finds out that I'm dead, not a chance. So I kind of started to knock it on the head. But throughout those years, I've tried every drug, you know what I mean? So do I regret it? Not one bit, because it's made me who I am now. It means I've tried it, so I don't ever want to try it again, because I've done it, I've experienced it. Fantastic times, yes. But do I need to do it again? No, I've done it. I actually wouldn't have the balls to do it anymore. So, it's life experiences and things you go through. So, yeah, I could have went down the wrong route, but boxing, again, trained me back and kind of took me away from, something that could have been, disastrous for my life.
Yeah. I mean, it's an inspiring story. On the last note of that, sort of dabbling with it when you were younger, can you see how younger people get pulled into drugs and they don't come back out?
Massively. I have friends who've committed suicide, who are drug addicts, who are drug dealers. It's a lifestyle that is hard to kind of get away from. And if you don't have a good support system, or you have the wrong support system around you, kind of, you can be screwed there unless you have that kind of bulletproof mindset where you can just focus on what you want and get away from what you need whenever you can. But as you know, addiction is a very awful thing, and something that, is hard to explain for a lot of people, and hard to explain for people who are not addicted to anything.
Yeah.
They try and understand how someone can just say, no, I'm not doing that. Is, you go, well, you just say that, but you can't. There's something deeper in the mind and in the body which doesn't let them. So it was a very dangerous route for me to kind of dabble with, and it could have went the wrong way. And I can see how a lot of people do go the wrong way, because there is, unbelievable times doing all that stuff, but at the same time, it's not the lifestyle you want to live forever.
Oh, of course not. I mean, look, there's no doubt. When I've dropped a knee in Ibiza and you're on a beach club somewhere, or you're in a club, you're fucking flying. It's great. I mean, there's no doubt when people say that they just say all the bad stuff about drugs, yeah, all of that is true. But in that moment, it's amazing. But one thing I know about it, my brother's had some really bad times with certain drugs. My uncle died from drugs. One or the other one. My dad's from siblings of 7. So he's got one sister and the rest of the boys. And 2 of the uncles have already died due to drugs. One of them had a stroke, and then the other one just collapsed recently in the last few months. So I understand that it's actually eventually a loser's game. Yeah. If you're in it and you're in it for too long, it's gonna fuck you up, basically.
Definitely, yeah.
Right, let's talk more about your boxing. So the thing that stands out if you put your name into the internet is some of the images of you at the Rio Olympic Games. Yeah. And this is why I personally love your story, because you're kind of black and white and you're quite kind of raw with your personality. Yeah. I think that shows up in your boxing style as well. Talk to us about the Rio when... Is it Vladimir Nikitin? Yeah. Obviously got that win. How was you feeling at that point? And I know you must have answered this so many times, and you're probably quite sick of people asking you, but I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. What was that like?
You know what? It was complete disbelief. And so there are actually investigations going on now, and they've found out that it all was corruption. But we were told, well, I didn't know, no one told me, but the coaches were told when I won my last 16 bout, they were told, go get help from a Russian coach. Go get help. Your boy's not going to win. And we have a Georgian head coach, and my father's the second. And the Georgian was like, what do you mean? He says, he's not going to win. He's going to lose. He says, my boy will destroy your boy. He's like, no, really, he's not going to win. Go get help. So they went and tried to get help, and they asked around everywhere. No one was answering. And then we got a call back. They got a call back saying that, no, it was too late. It was already done. Sorry.
And is it purely and simply because of money? People are putting bets on?
Nah, something well, probably partly, but the investigation recently has said the corruption has been going on since, like, decisions have been made and things have been done since maybe 2004 Olympics. So from way back then, everything, the way the score and everything has been all kind of corrupt. The judging systems has been bad, and it's AIBA. They're now doing a thorough investigation to try and clean out their whole thing and fix it. But in my opinion, very, very hard to fix. But anyway, back to the story. They were told. I went out. I remember my father saying to me the night before, if you can stop this guy, you take him out. And my father's never said something like that. He just says, your skills box still is. I was like, yeah, 100%. He says, no, you take him out if you can take him out. I was like, all right, no problem. I'll take him out. And then in the ring, I remember after the first round. So the first round, my family and all knew, my family were there. And they says, going to the fight was like going to someone's funeral. They were like in disbelief. They were like, no, it couldn't be. And they see me boxing the first round, and they were like, he's won this round. And they weren't truly believing it because it was just someone that said it, you know what I mean? And then they see me win destroy him in the first round, box the haters of him. And then I've lost the first round. And they're like, it's in, the fix is in. So my father leaned over in the corner and says, you need to stop this cunt, take him out. And even at that, I went out the second round and I almost had him out, and the referee had separated us. and she kept, and it says in the investigation which is done recently, it talks about the referee of my fight and how she stopped action in play when I was on top. So yeah, when I was in the ring, I still didn't know. I still wasn't told that there was corruption, but I just fucking knew it. I knew it, and the coaches obviously knew it a few days before, but obviously didn't want me to change my kind of game plan, how I would fight, or hinder how I would perform. And when I reacted, it was out of just pure emotion and honesty. You see these guys doing, when they lose in Olympic Games or they lose, athletes lose, everything's very scripted. It's very media trained, and I had media training, and that's why in the interview when you hear me saying I don't give a fuck if I'm cursing on TV, it's because the girl who does the media training was standing there, the public relations girl. She was standing there, and I looked at her when I said it. I was like, I don't give a fuck if I'm cursing on TV, and just went. But yeah, it was heartbreaking for me. My only goal when I started boxing was to be Olympic champion. Everything else is a bonus. Everything else is a bonus. And I could have went pro after I won bronze in 2012 Olympics, which was unbelievable experience. I was only 19, or 20, sorry. So it was like special. It was a special time. And I waited because the head coach at the time, Billy Wood, said, before even 2012, this isn't your games. You focus on just getting a good performance in. 2016 is your Olympics. So they didn't expect me to even win bronze there, and I went and won bronze. And then in 2016, I was so confident I was getting world number one, reigning world champion, number one seed. And for it to be taken away, how it would be taken away was just disgusting.
I mean, I don't like to pull my words either on my punches, and it's a fucking disgrace, like literally. Charlie told me actually when I trained with him, I think it was last week, he said they're looking to overturn a lot of decisions. Yeah. Yours, Joe Joyce, there's a few others.
I think there was about 11 fights they were saying, but obviously the most notable being mine.
And what does that mean? If they overturn it, you get a gold?
I think because it was a quarter-final bout, the next fight would have been for the medal, the bronze. It would have got you bronze, and then you would have fought to get into the final, for a minimum of silver. But Keaton didn't fight. His next fight, he couldn't. He was too badly beat up that he couldn't make the semi-final, so he didn't box in the semi-final. And I would have faced Shakur Stevenson, who's current world champion now, in the semi-final, and he went on to lose in the final to Robeisy Ramirez, who actually beat me in the 2016 Olympics. Or 2012 Olympics in the semi-final. So now he's double gold medalist. So yeah, there would be an awful way to go to get me a gold medal, which I think you can't do because you don't know how them fights would have went. I believe I would have won them at the time, 100%. But now you're sitting here and you go, well, would you have? You know what I mean? You can't say I would have. So I definitely won the bronze medal fight. So I think at least it should be a bronze. But if you wanted to push it, you could say he could have been an Olympic champion, give him the gold. But
yeah,
no, I couldn't see that happening.
The old saying is, it is what it is, and you can't change the past. You can definitely influence the future. And in some ways, it's kind of from a profile point of view, it shapes you definitely. To who you are today.
100%. I think it helped an awful lot with my career. Listen, it could winning the gold probably would have added more zeros, who knows. But I think in terms of being courted by promoters and stuff, I was probably one of the main guys from the 2016 Olympics, even though I didn't win any medals.
Yeah.
They wanted me because of everybody knew me. I blew up overnight. I remember my Twitter went from 15,000 to 100,000 within a few minutes. Of the interview, my Instagram shot up as well. It was crazy. It was unbelievable. I was half delighted when I seen the reaction, but in the immediate aftermath, after I'd done the interview, I sat there in the changing room and I cried, and I said, I fucked it. No one's gonna want to touch me. Well, I was wrong, because everybody wanted a part of that. I didn't know at the time. And when I seen everybody wanted a part of it, I decided to tweet Putin, didn't I? So I tweeted Putin, how much did you pay them? And it went viral. The tweet went viral, but I remember actually after I tweeted, I was like, I fucked it again, because someone's gonna come and like stick a fucking pen in me and a fucking cyanide or something and kill me. So I was like, Jesus, what have I done? But it went well. It worked out well, and obviously led to like my pro career, which went massive from the start.
It's almost like if you're an athlete, even on like a reality TV or any kind of form of being on TV, as an individual, it's kind of like, this is my perception again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's almost like you got to choose who you're going to be. Either you're going to be that descriptive kind of person, like saying the stuff that you should say in front of TV. And again, this is no disrespect to this person, because I don't know him, but it's the perception I get. Like an AJ, he says certain things.
You've got an AJ and you've got a Tyson Fury.
And you got someone who is...
Someone who says what he wants and someone who says what he needs to say.
Got no script and he's got no filter, and he will just say whatever he wants to say. And you have to kind of almost choose at the start. And I was going to say like a Conor McGregor, a Floyd Mayweather, these are people that would just say what they need to say. And he's actually got them far higher, being a bit authentic and organic, even if they rub people up the wrong way. Was that like a conscious choice that you made?
No, it wasn't conscious. I think it's just me as a human being, how I am. I think, the interview was me at my most raw moment. You've seen truly who I was in that interview. I spoke what I wanted to say. I was honest. I didn't pull no punches. I said everything I needed to say about AIBA and what it was about. So, let's use it.
Yeah. So it's just my doorbell going off.
No worries. But it's like, I said everything I needed to say, so I didn't pull no punches. And that was me, and that's what I always am. I'm an honest person. If I don't like someone, I have a reason why. If I don't have a reason why, I probably don't know them, and it's probably small-minded of me. But if I don't like someone for a reason, they'll know I don't like them, and I'm not going to pretend, not going to hate it. I can't. It's very hard for me to do so. And if I like someone, they'll know I really like them. So, it's just, I'm an honest person. As you says, it's black and white here. You either know what you're getting, and you know what you're not getting from me. So, that was the way I was, and that was just the character and the person I wanted to be as a professional. I wanted to be myself. I didn't want to be anybody else.
So walking out, pro debut with Conor. Did you know Conor before?
So I think when I won the World Championships in 2015, he sent me like a big message, like congratulating me and stuff, and we ended up staying in touch from then. And he was having an 8 Diaz rematch, and I got him the sparring partners he needed for an 8 Diaz rematch, and he ended up winning that fight and stuff. So I kind of got a relationship throughout there. I brought the sparring partner down, Conor Wallace. He went over to, he ended up bringing him over to Vegas and stuff, and had like a whole 12-week camp with him. So, that's how I kind of got to know him. And then we just stayed in touch. And then he was doing an event in Belfast in the end of 2016, December. And I was invited up to the event, and I was invited up onto the stage and to sit there and talk with him. And I just seen my opportunity. I says, like, there's a few thousand people here. Had a few drinks with me. I says, I'm going to just put it on him here and see if he'll walk me out. And I did, and he just says, yep, no problem, I'll walk out with you. So I was like, fucking brilliant, you know what I mean? Kind of forced him in the corner though, like in front of thousands of people. So when he walked me out in St. Patrick's Day, and he says 100%, and then, obviously the way it all worked out.
I resonate with that, because it's no different to how I am with podcasting. If I want to interview someone, I always think to myself, if I don't ask that person in that moment, I'm probably leaning towards Aaron now. Then I may miss the opportunity. And life is all about sales. Like this business here, really and truly, when you strip it all back, what is it? It's sales. That's what you got to do. You're selling yourself as a fighter. I'm selling myself as a podcaster. I'm selling myself as an art dealer. Like you got to have that confidence in order to ask. You've always had this. Well, it appears you've always had this confidence. Is that come from the family? Is it all come from boxing?
It comes from my mum. My mum has always been someone who's set little things in my head that kind of have that self-confidence. She's always told me I'm unbelievable. She's just like from a young age. When The Secret first came out,
love The Secret.
She was always on me, read this, and tell me this. No, like attracts like, positive mindset, all that stuff. And I was always like, shush, no, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't care. Like, whatever you say about this book and all this. But I started to take it on board. Like, I always took the confidence stuff on board. And plus, with my brothers and my father and stuff, my two older brothers always tell me I was the best out of all of us. That always was like, they're people I look up to. They're people. My oldest brother Jamie was someone who I wanted to be like. So I was like, he's saying that about me. I must be good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they were always setting them little, seeds in my head. But the secret kind of really came into my life in 2015 when I ended up winning the World Championships. I won the Europeans, I won the Worlds, I qualified for 2016 Olympics twice. And it was unbelievable. I started to read The Secret and I started to say, like, I already am world champion. I'm not worried. I am world champion. What's going on? And I ended up talking, speaking in the existence, kind of making it come true. And yeah, it was just I kind of started to build that own self-confidence even more and more and more. And that's led me to where I am now. I still read The Secret. I still have that positive mindset, the law of attraction, all that stuff. That's all a big part of my life still.
There's my book is, I think it's next door. I'll show you after this interview. Every single day I write down my affirmations and I write it like I've already achieved it. Because I believe if you write it down and then you say it out loud, which is an incantation, you manifest it. And I think it's so important. I think it's something that when people don't understand it, they go, oh, it's a load of rubbish. But the people that understand it and live by it, it actually shapes their life for the better, for good.
I agree 100%. And you're right about the people who don't do it, look at it and go, oh, it's full of shit. I was the same. It's, for a long time, I was the same.
My mum said I was brainwashed. When I used to do it, she'd go, why are you doing that? You're brainwashed. Because it was something completely alien to her. And I found all of this stuff out getting into sales. Because in sales, it is all about positive mindset, work hard and just become the best version of yourself. Hence why I was exposed to The Secret.
Yeah, it's 100%. You're right. People who don't understand their value into it and they'll look at it and they'll frown upon it going, full of shit.
Yeah.
Full of shit. But I do believe it. I do have a lot of faith in it. And, it is the law of attraction, the law of the universe and how things work and how things have probably always worked. Yeah,
for sure. So just relive that moment. You're walking out, full arena. They call it a Mecca of boxing in New York in Madison Square Garden. You got Conor McGregor there with, I think it was like a green kind of mink jacket.
Green mink. He had the Gucci mink on.
With the Irish flag.
The Irish flag. It was mental. So I actually bring it back to the changing room. I remember I was getting my hand drops. It was my first pro fight now. I've never boxed pro in my life. I've sold out MSG on my debut.
That's mental.
In a 6-round fight. I'm selling at MSG. So I'm going, what the fuck happens if I lose here? Fuck me, it's sold out. I'm shit myself. Next minute, McGregor comes in the room with all his kind of posse kind of thing.
Like an entourage.
Full entourage. And it's like, the whole room is like lit up. He's talking. He's saying all this. He's saying all that. It's a fucking blur now, looking at it. I was getting my hand dropped. I don't think I warmed up. I'd done a little bit of pause before I went out and he was there talking. It was complete blank. It was, if I was to go back, I wouldn't do it the way I would do it. Where it happened, I would say, listen, I'll meet you at the walkout. Don't be coming in the change room, because it was just too mental. And I remember walking out and he's saying all things, and then as soon as the doors open, like I was shit myself. But as soon as them doors open, I'm home. And that's where it has always been for every single walkout. I'm nervous right up until I start to walk. And when I started to walk, it's just like, bang, we're here. That's it,
You're in your element.
I love it. I feed off that energy. Use all that energy, gain it all. Now, on the debut, that's when he announced, actually, he was announced to the boxing world, he is boxing. He's there to say,
I am boxing.
That's how he started the Mayweather fight and stuff. So, I'm happy to say I had a part in that, you know what I mean? If you can throw me a few million, I'd be happy enough. But, it was mental, the fight itself. I remember I told everybody, I said, listen, I'm gonna stop with Sky in the third round. And a lot of people backed it, so I was like, I've got to stop with Sky in the third round. I put so much pressure on myself. And if you see in the third round, I've run out and I just try to stop him. I rush everything. I could have probably clean them out if I had it. Just took my time, but I just tried to stop it and get it done, and I ended up getting it in the third round. So thank God, thank God.
Charlie says something to me, and when I'm boxing with him, and I've realised now where it's come from, because I've watched that very fight, and I'll tell you what he says: slow is smooth. Yeah. Smooth is fast.
Yeah. So,
and I used to think that's a fucking cool saying, mate. And I used to give Charlie all the credit for it. I was thinking, it's fucking McGregor. It's Conor McGregor. He said it. So because I noticed he said it to you in the ring, and I thought the penny dropped. I was like, Charlie the rascal, man. He's dropping all these bars, and he's really got it from Conor McGregor.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. That was McGregor's got it from someone as well. But when he dropped it in there, it was like, fuck, that's a good saying. I wish I had took it on board more instead of just trying to rush my work. Yeah. Which I did in that fight. And looking back on it, the performance itself was a bad performance. It was too rushed, too. Listen, it was my pro debut. I had, thousands of people that were watching me, and I sold out MSG. I wanted to get the job done. I didn't want him to go to points. I wanted to get him out, and especially because I was calling in the media for ages the third round. I'm going to do him in third round. So when I went for it, it was just a bit mental.
Yeah. So you're 16-0, and I believe 8 knockouts so far.
Yeah.
So basically half of your fights, you're stopping people, knocking them out. Yeah. What's going to be next for you?
Well, it seems that my next fight on paper was against Lee Wood for the WBA world title. I'm current WBA interim champion. But I just seen yesterday actually that Lee Wood had a shoulder operation, so it looks like that fight will be pushed back to St. Patrick's Day. But in the meantime, I think I'm still going to fight in December.
Yeah.
No, I still think I'll have a fight in December to keep me busy, and then I'll go out and I'll fight Lee Wood and box the urchin.
Yeah. The going back to the Vladimir Nikitin, I had to pronounce that name a few times. You obviously,
so his name is pronounced Nikitin.
Nikitin.
But, I always call him nicotine because it's bad for your health.
You obviously fought him as a pro.
Yeah.
And it was in recent fights, wasn't it? It's like a redemption fight, right?
Yeah. It was 2019, December 2019.
Oh, really? I thought it was this year for some reason. These years are just blending into one.
They are. December 2019, I fought him in MSG on the Terence Crawford undercard.
Was that always planned to fight him?
Yeah, listen, since once Top Rank only signed him for me to get the redemption, and I did. I got it in New York. I beat him over 10 rounds. Almost had him out in the 8th. But you know what? It's not Nikitin's fault the decision went to him, and I actually really like him as a person. He's a lovely man. Always messages me, always thumbs up, and I think him being Russian, people think Russian, and he looks like a big angry guy, baldy head, really small, stocky thing. Looks really angry, but he's actually really, really nice, really sound, and I think. In the build up to the rematch and from 2016 Olympics, obviously he's here and he got the decision. It was a robbery, it was cheating, all this here, and he's probably going, well, that's my greatest achievement, and it's probably hard for him to live with that being said all the time. And even at that, he's just I remember in the build up, I was trying to do everything, annoy him, get under his skin, talking, and he was still sending me thumbs up under my stories and stuff, and I'm it's just too nice. And then after he kind of says, okay, finish. The thing in me, I was listening, it was never personal. And I give him a hug and wished him all the best. And, I really like him as a person, and if it comes to it and they say, listen, we're going to have to take Vladimir's bronze medal of him and give you it, I would say, nah, listen, it's not his fault. You can't do that. It's unfair.
Yeah.
What's happened. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want his best achievement to be taken away from him because of AIBA being corrupt. It's
not his fault, as you said.
It's not his fault, and he just is a really nice man.
In a moment, I want to talk about when you first started your career, as a pro, because it was in America, and now you're over here at Boxing Booth, and I want to talk about how the culture is slightly different and how your style has evolved because of that. I want to round off this last part because I read something even earlier today just about the relationship with Conor McGregor. You saying about, well, me even observing that your character is very black and white, you know, there's, you know, you say it how it is. What I rate about you is, obviously Conor McGregor's a big profile, obviously a friend of yours, walked out with you, but you was even still saying the truth, which was when you were asked about him fighting Mayweather, you said, it's different sport, Mayweather's going to beat him. And then he seemed to sort of kind of disappear and stop communicating with you. Have you ever spoken to him about that since, or?
I haven't really ever spoken about it, but I know that, you know, from then we kind of have become more distant. I was still chatting and stuff the odd time, but no, nothing the way I probably would have. It would have been if I had been, you know, on that, you know, the hype train and feeding the ego kind of thing. But as I said, it's a different sport. I think, you know, if I was to say he was going to beat Floyd, I would be lying to myself. He put on a fantastic performance, don't get me wrong, but you know, Floyd Mayweather is Floyd Mayweather. You know, he hasn't lost the greatest boxers of our time. So there was nothing leading me to think that, you know, Conor was going to beat him. So I wasn't going to go out there and lie. You know, if I'd done that, I wouldn't be true to myself.
Yeah, makes sense. On that note, who is the boxer or someone that you look up to in boxing? Who's like kind of influenced you?
Manny Pacquiao, he's just retired. I was honoured enough to fight on his undercard in my third fight, and it was actually in Australia. He lost to Jeff Horn. But he's someone who, you know, from I was young, I've always loved, and you know, how he is with his people and how his people support him is something that, you know, I'm actually happy I have a kind of element of that. With my own support, my own people, my Irish people, who follow me all over the world, and they all support me and they all talk. So, I loved how he is with his nation.
Yeah. So you started in America, and then you came over here to start training with Adam Booth. How come you made your decision to start in America?
So when I signed with Top Rank, the idea was to build me in America, because usually, you know, you be the big fish in a small pond and then you go to the big pond. But what they wanted me to do, they wanted to build me in the big pond and then bring me back to the small pond, and let's see what way it works. So they wanted to flip the script on how it's usually done. So I says, okay, well, if I'm going to be based in America, if I'm going to be fighting in America most, I'll base myself in America. So I moved to me, my missus, and my daughter. My son wasn't born at the time, so my daughter was only 2. We moved to Southern California, Marina Del Rey, right beside Santa Monica. Beautiful lifestyle. You know, it was like I was living like a few doors up from Janet Jackson, that type of thing. It was like, you know, it was expensive. It was very expensive. But
how many years was you there?
Just 1 year. Year. So I done my first year as a pro out there. I planned to stay for 3, but I realized after year 1 that, you know, my style and stuff was not how I wanted to be. I started to kind of, I was in the gym with Mexican coaches and Mexican fighters, and it was predominantly Mexican there. So I started to fight too much when I know my bread and butter is using my skills and my boxing ability, and so I started to kind of get into the wrong kind of, you know, routine of, you know, every spar was a war. There was no learning. And I thought that, you know, I shouldn't be doing this the way I'm doing it. I need to get back to my boxing. So I started to think about what was going to be the best choices for me. And then my partner, Shauna, she was pregnant again. So I says, listen, it's going to be for an already now. I sleep in the opposite room because I'm in training camp basically the whole year round. I'm not there much because I'm in the gym twice a day, every single day. We're going to need a bit more help, a bit more of a support system. We're in LA. There's no family, there's not very little Irish people in LA. There's no kind of routine for us to kind of have people that have a support system around us. So I says it's going to be better for us to move back to the UK, in Ireland. And I says the only coach I'll train with in the UK is Adam. It's whether or not Adam would want to train me. So I had to go home. When I decided to go back, you know, I decided that I needed to try him out, and so I went and done like a trial with him. And at the end of the week, I knew it was the coach for me. He brought me back to what I do best, and that's using my skill set.
Because my take on, like, in America, but certainly the Mexicans, and they're known for this, being very, very strong, tough people, come forward fighters. And
nicest people in the world as
lovely.
well. Nicest people in the world as well. And I'm still friends with my old coach, Manny Robles, who actually trained Andy Ruiz to beat Anthony Joshua.
Oh, right.
So like that gym at the time was unbelievable. We had, you know, Oscar Valdez, we had Jesse Magdaleno, and many other top fighters. All the Benavidez brothers, they were coming in and doing sessions, and you know, it's a hotbed of boxing. You know, all the best guys in the world end up kind of Southern California to do some training camps or do something. So you're getting the best of training all the time, and even the guys who are not the world champions are kind of, you know, club fighters, so to say. They're unbelievable as well. They're really tough, you know what I mean? So the level of work and the level of sparring was unbelievable. So I learned an awful lot. I learned a different style. I learned that Mexican style of boxing. But I thought towards the end that, you know, I don't need to be doing this too long, because there were some of the guys who I seen who were in wars every day in sparring, who were this guy at the start of the year, and by the end of the year they were not the same.
Fucked.
Yeah. Brain damage.
Well, yesterday, but I promoted it today on my Instagram. I interviewed Tris Dixon.
Yeah.
And he obviously has got the book Damaged, and we spoke a lot about the book, and also about the because I started thinking about myself. I'm not a pro, and I'm not planning to go pro, but I love sparring. It's my favourite thing. Like on a Friday, I normally go sparring, and then before my second son was born, I was going on a Sunday to spar, Dan Morley and Jermaine and people like that. And there were a few times I come out from a Sunday and think, I feel slightly sick because of a blow to the head. And you kind of, as a boxer and as an alpha male, you're like, I'll be all right, I'll be sweet. And then when I started speaking to Tris Dixon, I was thinking, there could be some long-term damage there, you know? And I think with the Mexican style fighting, they're horrible to fight because they just keep them coming forward, but you can hit them in the head a lot.
They have shorter careers. And, you know, like as I said, I seen one of the kids who was this guy at the start of the year, so fresh, young, talented. By the end of the year, he just wasn't the same. He wasn't there. At the start of the year, he was actually competitive enough. By the end of the year, I was almost knocking him out in sparring. I had to stop because he was gone in the ring. And after I spoke to him and he was crying, I was like, don't worry about it, this is sparring, it happens, you know.
Yeah.
I ended up losing one of his fights then recently after he ended up getting knocked out. But yeah, listen, it's a very, very, like, people look at boxing and go, wow, and people do say it's violent, yes, and brain damage, you know. They're not lying in a sense, because, you know, I understand the risks of boxing. That's why my style is my style. I don't want to be hit. I don't like being hit. I box the ears of people because that's how I know, you know, I have more longevity in the sport. That's how I know my health is going to be okay, because I choose the style I want to have. I don't want to have that Mexican kind of style where, you know, you are shifting shots, and, you know, if you had how much punches does a boxer who's boxed from, you know, 7 years of age to 30, 32. How much punches have you took in their lifetime?
Yeah.
Punches have I took now? You know, I have hundreds of fights. I've had hundreds of fights in the amateurs. I've had thousands of spars. You know, I don't know how much times I've sparred, but like, you've been hit in the head a lot of times there.
Yeah.
Who's not to say there's not an effect on you? Of course there will be. That may not be the way a lot of people are. It might be minimal.
Yeah.
But there definitely is. I always say, like, when you go into a boxing ring, you actually aren't the same person when you leave. Because no matter what, if you get hit once, you've lost brain cells there.
Of course.
One shot is you're losing. I think maybe you have millions of fucking trillions of brain cells. You know what I mean? But you're losing loads there as soon as you get touched once. So same as hitting the ball and all. You know, people are losing brain cells that way, but it's different. You know, when you're getting hit, it's more forceful and stuff. So it's something you gotta. you got to think about it. It's one of the reasons I say, nah, my son doesn't need to do it. You know, I've lost enough brain cells from my son. How I explain boxing a lot of the time is you're selling brain cells.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're selling them for people's entertainment.
Yeah.
And then you see people, no, he's a born fighter. People say about me all the time, I'm a born fighter. I do not give two fucks if you say I'm a born fighter, because I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm getting the bag and getting the fuck out. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So talking about your career where you are now with boxing Booth, Adam Booth. First time I ever met Adam Booth, going back a few years now, I think it must have been about 2013, 14. Yeah. He was with David Hay and he had George Groves. And the reason why I was down the old former Haymaker, I used to sponsor, you might know this fighter, Sam Webb, used to be British champion, and Bradley Skeet, who retired and then obviously he's now, back in Sheffield and coming back. And at the time, Sam was getting ready for Prince someone. I can't remember his name. Anyway, it escapes me.
Yes, I remember the guy. I know who. And
he had a war in that fight and he actually lost. But he went down there to spar George Groves. And I remember watching George Groves, like I've said this plenty of times on my podcast, when you watch a boxer at a high level fight on TV, you're obviously in awe. But it's when you go down to the gym and you watch them spar. And I saw George Groves dismantle about 4 guys back to back with no break sparring. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is an absolute machine. It was amazing to watch. And then I just saw the relationship he had with Adam. And it seems like Adam really commands the respect from his fighters. And there's this kind of bond. Yeah. I mean, how genuine is that? How real is that? How, is that with all fighters or just a few of them?
It's with me, definitely. He gains the bond with fighters. He knows what to say, when to say. He knows how. He knows when to pull the reins in or let you go. So he has a great understanding of fighters, of human beings, and he understands the fighter and the person, and that's a big difference in most coaches, because most coaches only think about the fighter, but you need to think about the person, because the person makes the fighter. So if you understand what's going on outside someone's life and how they are as a person, it's very easy to train them and know what way to work with them as the fighter. So that's something he's very good at. He's good at understanding both the person and the fighter. And once you can figure that stuff out, the training should be easy enough. You know what I mean? What he does in training, he's a genius. I think his boxing brain is unbelievable. He's got a great eye for spotting things and learning things, and he is a coach who always is learning. He's not a coach who's stuck in his ways. He's always learning and trying to develop, doing different things. I think my style of fighting is actually different to a lot of the fighters who he's trained, because he's got them big, the one punch kind of guys like your George Groves, your David Hayes and stuff. But I think with me, he's had to kind of maybe think a bit more and work on different stuff, the inside fighting out there. I know he's worked on that before, but there's more focus on that stuff with my style. Obviously, me being a switch hitter as well, it's probably something different for him. So yeah, it's been great. I have a great bond with Adam.
What I like about him as well is he never seems to lose his cool in the corner. He's always calm, methodical, and very, very clear with his instruction. And I think the fighter picks up on that a lot more than go out there and destroy him. Do you know what I mean? Some
fighters like the shout and stuff, but I hate it, I'll be honest. For me, from day one, it's always been calm in the corner. And even when my father was in the corner, he was always calm. And Adam is very, very calm in the corner. And it's something that I think I need in my corner. I like in my corner. I don't like, you need to go out and take him out. If someone says like you need to take him out, just say it calmly. You don't need to shoot it at me, I'll do it. You know what I mean? So he's very good in the corner. His instructions are always very clear, and you kind of know, you can get a read off him about how he's feeling about it. We can, if he wants urgency, you can read that off him. He's an open book in that sense when you're in the corner. So and he's honest. That's the main thing. When you have to be honest in this game. So he's an honest coach. If he tells you, he's not going to tell me, listen, you look brilliant there. He'll tell me, you were shit there. You know what I mean? If I was crap in sparring, he'd say, nah, it wasn't good. It was shit.
Good.
And that's what you want. You don't want someone to go on, yes, man. Yes. Fantastic. No, don't want that. I want someone to be honest with me. Tell me I'm crap when I'm crap. Tell me I'm great when I'm great.
Yeah, you need someone who's going to be integral.
Tell me I'm good when I'm great. Don't tell me I'm great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just let me be me, but just be honest.
The last part of this conversation is about, you know, building yourself as a business person, profile, social media, etc. Because I know you've been outspoken about certain things. I know I touched on earlier about suicides and mental health and that kind of stuff. And obviously with the pandemic, it's really escalated. You know, people lost their jobs, people turned to drink drugs, they've self-harm and all that kind of stuff. You said something where after that fight from the Olympics, you went back and you thought that you had kind of messed up your own profile in a way, but in actual fact, it reversed. So being a young man from a very, very small part of the world, but being in something so large, and then you got a massive following, how did you deal with that? Because people are going to be throwing you all kinds of comments from great to not so great. How did you deal with that as a person?
I think, you know, it was tough in the sense that, you know, I was reading the negative stuff and I was reading the positive, but if you're going to read the positive, you're going to read the negative, and that's something that I've kind of learned to kind of not do. I try not to read any of people's comments, because the only people's comments that really ever matter is the people who are close to you, the people who care for you. Everybody else's comments are really irrelevant, whether they are good or whether they are bad. They are irrelevant. They don't mean fuck all. So it took me time to understand that. So, you know, there's ups and there's downs. You're reading things, and sometimes, you know, you read 1,000 good comments, but you read one bad comment, and you stick on the bad comment, and that's so annoying. So I've just stopped reading things like that and try not to, but obviously sometimes you still do. But that was one of the hard things of just trying to focus where my mind was going. I just tried to read all the good stuff at times and not read any of the bad, but you do come across it. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough mentally to kind of get over that stuff. But with everything that went on after the games, with like pro contracts, I was going to Vegas, but then I realised that my Vegas trip had changed into a business meeting with Top Rank. And then they were booking me bloody business class flights home, all this here stuff. So I was like, fantastic, you know what I mean? This is just worked out well. So yeah. I was just the immediate down kind of shot up like that. So I was down. I was really down. Well, I was down the dumps for a while because of I lost my lifetime goal. But I kind of blocked that out and just went up because of everything that happened, how everything just started to snowball about the professional career, because I was going pro anyway. I wasn't staying amateur. I was going pro. My dream was taken away, but I just reset my goals, and I think even if you listen to the interview after, you know, I say something like, no, you know, I'm not a loser. I'm a winner, and I'll have a great career ahead of me, and kind of turn the negative into a positive right away. And that was that kind of positive mentality, that mindset right away. I flipped it in probably the worst state I've ever felt emotionally. I was able to flip that right away into something positive.
Mayweather done it when he got the bronze in that Olympics, and then he immediately turned into a pro, and obviously went on to have 50-0. So you can definitely do it. Sometimes you need them things to happen in order to kick on. Do you know, like you just mentioned earlier about you got a promotions company, Conlan Promotions, is it?
Conlan Boxing, yeah.
So the business side of boxing, because typically a career for a boxer is what, 30, 35, 40 maybe sometimes.
If you're heavyweight.
If you're heavyweight. Yeah. But really and truly, what, 32, 33 maybe.
Yeah.
You know, you're meant to achieve everything you want to achieve, earn the amount of money, and some people think that you can just survive on that for the rest of your life, but really and truly, you need to start setting up business.
It's a 0.1% that will probably be able to do that. So you need to have kind of, you know, things set up for whatever's next. And escape plans, you know, exit routes. You need to have them kind of set up. And obviously now with Conlan Boxing, that is one way which I plan to do so. You know, managing and promoting fighters. And you know, it's taken off. Our first show was my last fight at Belfast in the Fiala. You know, we were restricted to 8,000 people, but you know, we sold it in like, you know, minutes basically. So an unbelievable event. We have another event coming up here on November 5th in Belfast as well. I think like 90% of the tickets are sold already.
Nice.
So it's going really well. It's going well. My brother, I'll be honest, my brother's handling most of it at the minute. I'm involved in pockets, but you know, he wants me to focus on my career, so he's at the reins at the minute. But yeah, we both have we have two fighters who we're going to be saying, which I can't mention yet, but we'll mention them soon enough.
How long do you think you're going to stay boxing for?
Max 3 more years. Max.
Really, that soon?
Max.
Cool. I was expecting longer.
Well, I'm 30 next month.
Suppose so. Yeah.
30 next month. I've always said 32, but it says I'll give myself another year with a pandemic, kind of withholding things, stopping things, because I should be world champion already if it wasn't for the bloody pandemic. So,
this was a question I was going to ask you actually. With a few of your fights being cancelled or rescheduled over since 2019, how have you coped with that?
You know what? The first my first fight was everything shut down. Basketball in America shut down the week of my fight in MSG on St. Patrick's Day 2020. I was in New York. It was Wednesday. I was fighting on the Saturday, I think. Bang. Everything cancelled. Gotta go home. I'm not getting the fight, not getting paid. My fuck's sake. So I went home anyway. I was half delighted because it means I didn't have to make weight. So I was like, this is a bit sorry, like I can eat what I want now. So ended up flying back home in lockdown, didn't know when I was gonna fight again. And just kind of getting into this mad training routine where I was never into, just training out of camp. My weight and everything just started to drop down. I was just in a really good mindset. Like, you know, I'll be honest, the first lockdown of, you know, coronavirus and all that was unbelievable there for me. It changed me as a person. It changed my mindset. I always thought after boxing I'd become really fat and, you know, just like I don't care. But that first lockdown made me realise that I won't, because, you know, when there's nothing else next, I realise when there's something next, you know, I try to eat as much as I can before I have to start losing again. Yeah. And it's kind of a vicious routine. I probably have problems with food, you know what I mean? You know, mentally, you know, subconsciously, you know, I have, you know, some problems which I'll need to figure out. But I think when boxing ends, they'll be gone, because there is nothing next and you don't need to make weight. So you don't want to eat everything, you eat normal.
I read you've got into cooking.
I can bake. I'm a bake, not cooking. I can bake. I can bake cakes. If you need me to bake a cake, I can bake any cake you want. But that happened in the lockdown. Yeah, got into baking, get into cycling, get into loads of stuff, and yeah, I ended up fighting. I had one fight that year. I would have had two, only, you know, around the 20th. I think it was the 20th of October. Was it last year? It was last year. I done my ankle in the gym, so I spent the fight in the December. But that got cancelled, and then I didn't have a fight till April this year, and then I have my second one in August, and now I'll have my third again in December. So
you're going to be 30, you know, young man still, going to be fighting for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit longer. Certainly going to become a world champion, hopefully multiple, maybe weight world champion, potentially. After that, though, I know you've got your promotions company, but what other goals have you got over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah,
property is another thing I'm in. You know, I want to get as much property as I possibly can. You know, just start to kind of put different routes in. Different rates of income coming in
build your asset column,
build the assets and stuff. So that's all things I've been doing slowly over the last few years, and hopefully that'll be the type of things, you know, when I'm done boxing, to just keep me afloat. And you know, if there's other routes there for TV work or anything like that, no, I don't mind doing things like that. But yeah, I think the management, the promotional side of things, and the property side of things will be my focus.
Yeah, where me and my business partner, so we got this, and we also got a property company. So all the profits from here go into the property company, and we're building that. I think it's such a important thing for younger people to learn, because I think the first skill is to earn the money. The second skill is to keep the money. And I think if you're blowing it on the flash cars or the lifestyle, before you know it, you're back to square one.
No, that's not me. I'm not a flash kind of guy, really. I do like some nice cars and stuff, but you know what? I sit with Aaron and we sit and look at cars and like, oh, I'll get that there, get this, and then I would, why the fuck am I going to get that? Just put that on a house. Why would I waste that money? Because you know they're more liabilities than assets.
Of course,
they're not good to have. So, no, I've recently just purchased, you know, kind of my dream home. So.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I'm delighted.
Is that back in Ireland?
Back in Ireland.
Yeah,
I
wicked.
wouldn't live anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, lovely. Well, to conclude this part, it's all about when you're buying your liabilities, you want to buy it for your assets, essentially. So if you want the Lamborghinis or Ferraris, get it through that kind of stuff. Yeah. Where can people find you, Mick?
Yeah, on my social medias, on Instagram and Twitter, it's just McConlan11. I'm not on Facebook, but there is like a Facebook page, Michael Conlan Boxer, I think it is, or something.
Like a fan page?
Like a fan page, but I'm not on Facebook. It does my head in.
All right. You probably heard me say this to Dan and Harlan on my podcast. It's something I always end with. So I come up with a mantra when I first got into business for myself, which goes like this: be happy, never content. Yeah. I built a gym in my house in the pandemic or outside, and I've got it actually plastered up on the wall. So when I'm training, I read it all the time to keep me focused. Yeah. I've got my own interpretation of it. If I were to ask you, Mick, what does be happy, never content mean to you?
It's a hard one. Being happy for me is being around my family. I'm a family man. I love my family. And if I didn't have anything, I know I always have my family, so
yeah,
that's me being happy. But it's also at the same time it's being contented. So that's a hard question. Mm-hmm. You gotta give me time to think about that one. Be happy, content. You're always striving to reach the highest goals you can possibly reach, getting yourself out of your comfort zone all the time, but being surrounded by the people you love.
Top man, you've been an absolute gent. Thank you so much for giving up your time and sharing some of your stories and being an open book. More importantly, if you've enjoyed the podcast, please follow Mick and watch out for his next fights, and definitely subscribe to what he's doing and go to the fights. And be happy, never content, and look forward to sharing some more information soon. Cheers.